Hello folks, Phil Gallagher of ThrabenU here for another Legacy video. Today we're going to be continuing a series funded by Sean K that is going to explore prison decks in various formats with a strong focus on Legacy. Today we're going to be playing with a mono blue Echo of Eons prison deck list, and a lot of times the deck lists that are like this are called Urza Echo because they have Urza, Lord High Artificer, although this build doesn't actually feature that card. Like many of the other prison decks in Legacy, it's built largely around Chalice of the Void, so there's very few 1-drops in this deck list, and the 1-drops that do exist are really just Urza Saga tutor targets. As far as most of the other prison elements, it's actually Hullbreacher, which is geared at hating on the blue decks specifically, and blue decks are really good in Legacy, so it's not uncommon to see main deck Carpet of Flowers, for example, from a recent deck list that did very well, or things of that nature such as Pyroblast. But the Hullbreacher is not dead in every matchup, because we are hoping to cast an Echo of Eons. And if you cast an Echo of Eons, while you have Hullbreacher in play, your opponent is very sad and you are very happy with a fresh hand and a whole bunch of treasure tokens. Karn the Great Creator also offers prison elements in that it shuts off artifact decks while also giving access to more prison cards such as Ensnaring Bridge or the ability to destroy lands via something like Liquimetal Coating. The remainder of this deck list here is built around artifact synergies, and Emry, Lurker of the Loch, in addition to just replaying all of your free/cheap artifacts, can also be a way to mill an Echo of Eons. Now, this deck can be built in a number of ways. Sometimes this deck has Urza Saga, sometimes it doesn't. The versions that don't run Urza Saga tend to be a little bit lighter on lands, usually running 17, whereas the builds with Urza Saga tend to bump up the land count by 1 or 2 because Urza Saga does disappear, and this deck does have lots of endgame mana sinks, including things like Kappa Cannoneer, although that's maybe not a good example because that one can also be cheated out very quickly via a bunch of zero-cost artifacts. Now, this deck is not nearly as aggressive as something like Moon Stompy, but this deck is resilient. This deck is a pain in the butt. Emry offers to rebuy things like Baubles every turn for card advantage. Urza Saga can make large creatures. Kappa Cannoneer does Blastoise things and just absolutely ruins game and makes blocking via combat impossible, while cards like Hullbreacher or Karn might give decks various problems as well. As far as the sideboard goes here, I am playing the 75 that recently got a 4-1 in a preliminary, and I almost changed it, and then I saw something kind of cute, and I went, like, is that cute or is that good? And the card in question here is Warping Whale. This is something that used to see a lot of play in Ancient Tomb deck lists as something that could fight against powerful sorceries like Show and Tell, but has basically fallen off the map. But I do wonder if this card is like good enough at countering things in, say, the Delver matchup, like Meltdown or Expressive Iteration, that card is actually playable again. So that has my attention here. Unlike many prison decks, this one is not actually running Leyline of the Void in the sideboard, opting instead to play some copies of Unlicensed Curse, and Echo of Eons kind of serves as Graveyard Hate as well, if you squint at it and look at it from exactly the right angle. Yeah, and this deck is playing a lot of copies of Dismember, because holy moly, Collector Oof is a hard card to beat. With that being said, I think I'm going to go ahead and jump directly into the league here. I hope you all will enjoy. If you're new here, consider subscribing if you like what you see, and if you're a regular, throw me a like before this video begins. That's one of the easiest ways to support my content for free. If you're in the position to support me financially, you can do so via Patreon, via a YouTube membership, or by donating to get one of your own sweet decks on the channel. Let's battle. There comes a point in every man's life where he has to look at an opening hand and go like, you fucking believe in the hand? You fucking believe in the Echo of Eons? And I think the answer is no, I don't believe in it here, since my land is City of Traders. And I'm just going to mulligan. This hand is not great, but I will probably keep it. We're very reliant on Emery to do cool shit this game. And I think I'm going to toss back a land, rationalizing that I would probably Force of Will to protect an Emery in a decent number of situations here. Not this situation, though. We kind of whiffed as far as Emery is concerned. Emery lets you cast a card. So you can't use it to play the artifact lands like you see here. Yeah. So given that I whiffed on Emery, I will not Force of Will to protect that. And I'll just proceed to my turn. Hullbreacher's super cool. Hullbreacher's super cool early. Alice is also super cool early. I'm just gonna Chalice first. Chalicing first protects the Hullbreacher from a future Source of Plowshares or Snapcaster Source of Plowshares, while also making my opponent's cantrips worse. And then I can follow up with Hullbreacher, potentially even with Force of Will backup next turn. And it seems like opponent does not have Prismatic Ending. Ooh, Emery. Emery. Given that I have nothing good in the graveyard, I'm just going to go ahead and pass the turn here. And be prepared to Hullbreacher something away. Or not Hullbreacher something away. Hullbreacher in response to a relevant spell. We could see something like a Teferi come down this turn. I would prefer not to Force of Will, because I would love to Emery and find an Echo after Hullbreachering, but can't necessarily have it all. This is fine. What are we looking at? Oh. No? Feels like a no here. Alright. I'm a little bit running on fumes. I'm going to kind of assume that we're playing against some kind of Jeskai control deck list that maybe has one or two true names. I'm not going to assume that my opponent has overloaded on this effect. Okay, nice. My Hullbreacher has resolved. Lotus Petal's not exactly fantastic. I'm going to go ahead and just crash on in there. Hit my opponent, and I'm just going to hold the Lotus Petal. I don't really get a lot of benefit for playing it out right now. Prismatic Ending for X equals 3 can take out a Hullbreacher. Teferi can bounce something and be annoying. Oh. No worries, it's just a fair and balanced magic card. Alright, my offense has been stopped for now. My offense has returned with a vengeance. So I'll go ahead and play an Urza Saga. I do not need to play out Petal immediately. That's still something that can wait another turn. Okay. Am I getting bashed for 4? I am. Given that I have an Ancient Tomb, my life total is a little spooky here. My life total is less spooky now. I think I need to attack. There are some things that punish an attack, such as a cycled Shark Typhoon or a Hullbreacher of my opponent's own. But I think I am good with it. I just need to push this damage, because this card is bullshit. And there's very much worlds where my opponent can just throw a bunch of spells into their graveyard, grow this thing, and then just kill me in one turn. That is very much a timeline that exists. We'll see if my opponent can, yeah, they're keeping up the aggro. I'm gonna have a Shadow Spear next turn, though. Which hopefully tilts. Oh, wow. Well, it could get weird. Anyway, I will just make another construct here. Fantastic. I'll grab the Shadow Spear. This is worth the 2 life to equip to me, because I'm about to gain 9. In most worlds, my opponent could have some wild shit like a Solitude or something. So, if my opponent didn't concede here, let's say they had something that kept them from being dead. If my opponent didn't concede there, it's actually kind of interesting whether or not I attempt Echo, because if my opponent removes the Hullbreacher, it gets kind of wild. Alright. what do I want to do here? I'm being attacked by some wildly disparate cards, like True Name Nemesis and Murktide Regent require very different answers. I think I'm good with boarding in Unlicensed Hearse. Spellbomb is probably not the worst as a bounce target for Murktide Regent. My opponent probably has, like, EIs, probably Meltdowns in the sideboard, so Warping Whale is worth considering as well. And I didn't necessarily see a Pithing Needle target, but it wouldn't surprise me if my opponent has a few Planeswalkers in there. I don't think I want Force of Will. I just don't think I want to fight on that front. Like, my blue cards are really good in this matchup. I don't think I want to be pitching them. So that gives me the first 3 of these cards pretty much for free. And do I just round out with 1 Warping Whale? I can see rounding out with 1 Warping Whale. My opponent doesn't show me any Planeswalkers and we go to a game 3 scenario, I might end up cutting Pithing Needle. Also, it could be that, like, Karn isn't great in this matchup. It's really good against the control aspects of my opponent's deck, and kind of bad versus the threats that my opponent is presenting. Auto mulligan that hand. This one will be a keep. Probably just pitching the Karn here. Don't think that fits super well with what I'm doing. And I will have some choices about how I play my hand here. Oh, Esper Sentinel, sure. Alright, Esper Sentinel actually makes my hand kind of awkward. I don't really want to give my opponent cards. Also a pretty massive tempo hit for me to play around this here. I guess I can just play Seat into Lotus Petal. Turn to tap Seat, play Emery, tap City, Lotus Petal, play Hullbreacher. That's pretty reasonable while not giving my opponent a card in this turn cycle. Yes, I will prevent this. I'm going to play this out while I'm playing around the Esper Sentinel tax, and I'm going to pass the turn, hoping not to just, like, eat a Meltdown or equivalent here. Oh, this is lower to the ground than what I was expecting. Sure. This also might mean that there's, like, days that I have to think about. Maybe even Wasteland. Okay. Alright, I've got a better feeling for what my opponent is playing now. I'll take 1. Do I really want to play this? I'm not really great at activating it yet. I think I'm going to stay the course. Oh, this is so awkward for me. I think I'm going to stay the course, though. So let's go ahead and play the Emery. Mill some cards. No Echo. And then just pass with Hullbreacher available. Hullbreacher kind of solves my my Esper Sentinel problem. And I say that with air quotes. My opponent has Brainstorm on top. I'm going to just Hullbreacher here before my opponent has that Brainstorm. I really don't want them to, like, Brainstorm in response to my Hullbreacher. That's just terribly awkward for me. And I don't super care if the Hullbreacher gets removed since I have another one. I care much more about, like, City of Traders getting Wastelanded or something. Or probably even worse in this scenario, Seat getting Wastelanded. In the not too distant future, I can just, like, Kappa Cannoneer from my graveyard. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm, like, almost there already. Oh, no. Yeah. I think I lose this game to that. Like, I can be wrong here. But that feels very strong for my opponent. I can like rebuy Lotus Petals. Hello? Yeah. Let's rebuy a Lotus Petal, shall we? Like, for fun? You can draw your card. I will not pay to prevent that, because I get a treasure. That also probably means opponent doesn't have removal. Because otherwise they probably would have fired it off on Hullbreacher. Doesn't mean they don't have counterspells. Alright, cool. I got the damage in. I will go ahead and slam a Hullbreacher here. And I think I do just go for the Echo. Unsure if I'm supposed to play the Urza Saga. Let's do it. That lets me play around days, which feels pretty important here. So let's discard. I will go ahead and do that so that I can leave a blue floating. I guess I already play around days from Treasure Token. Now I play around Spell Pierce. All right. And here we kind of see the prison elements, right? Where I have just like stripped my opponent of literally their entire hand, and I get an entirely new hand, and I would have had 7 treasure tokens as well, if that turn had like kind of come to fruition. Yeah, so GG's. I will absolutely be keeping this opening hand here. This one's quite strong, with a decent amount of flexibility. As of right now, my turn 1 play is almost always Chalice of the Void, but then from there I have some decent flexibility. Never mind. Rip Chalice of the Void. Taken from my hands before its time. Yep, there we go. So in case you're not familiar with what our opponent is playing here, Watery Grave almost certainly means that my opponent is playing a Death Shadow deck list. What land do I want to play? I can just start Urza Saga now. Makes it harder to Kappa. Can't really Emery. I think I'm fine with this just being an Urza Saga game. It's unexciting, but probably just correct against my opponent who wants to get their life total as low as possible, as quickly as possible. Be a little awkward against a Wasteland, but, you know, that is what it is. Alright, here's the fetch for the Brainstorm, which probably puts my opponent to 12. Indeed it does. Which means Death Shadow is probably on the menu in the not-too-distant future. I don't think I'm scared of a Death Shadow. I am kind of scared of 2, though. If they can attack with 1 and leave 1 back, that's pretty spooky for me. I think playing that card is probably worth missing out on an Urza Saga Construct token. Like, the Urza Saga Construct token is very good, but stopping all of my opponent's cantrips, a good portion of their possible removal, and the Death Shadows themselves is really strong. I think I'm into that, especially since my opponent countered the first one. And I do think I am supposed to do it with this land, so I can make a construct next turn. Alright, it has resolved. There was a little bit of a pause. But it's possible my opponent does have some interaction. And there are other threats in this other than just Death Shadow. So, like, we're not out of the woods yet, but this is very good. Fuck Murktide Regent, though. I am so sick of this shit. Yep. Alright, that is a very large Murktide Regent that I will probably Otawara away in the not-too-distant future. I think it will be worth it to go ahead and do this, though. Like, I'm absolutely willing to take a hit here. I will just grab a Shadow Spear, I think. I think that's good enough here. And then I can go ahead and play a Beat into an Emery. Now this is dazable. Okay, we're seeing some movement from the opponent. Underground Sea. Not sure exactly why. Are we just floating and dazing with Underground Sea? Okay, that is exactly what is happening. That's fine. So I can potentially just brute force my way through a Murktide Regent, or alternatively, I draw any mana source and then I just bounce it. Alright, opponent is staying the beat down. That's okay. It's a follow-up threat or removal spell that starts to get scary. I've got Snuff Out to worry about. If I kind of go all in on Shadow Spear, that can be very awkward for me. I'm always casting this card this turn, so let's start here. 1, 2, 3, 4 artifacts. I have a lot of lines this turn. Kind of like just attacking for 5, hold up, Otawara. It's just so safe. Let's just get in there with that. See if my opponent wants to snuff out or anything cute. They do want to snuff out. That's fine. Brings my opponent to 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I can play a dazable Kappa Cannoneer, hold Otawara in hand. Go to 8. Go to 2. Now that's kind of awkward. Right, Otawara, that thing. That's 3/6 of the cost covered via Otawara. This is very awkward. I can just play out Otawara, then play Kappa Cannoneer. You have to tap this. Save this. Not guaranteed to be lethal next turn, even with Karns in hand. But if I Otawara this, and my opponent just, like, has a fetch land or something, I'm not actually in that good of a position. I probably just Otawara it, though. Fuck. Yeah, that's what I didn't want. So this gives up a lot to do this here. I just have these, like, Karns in my hand that are way too slow. And then my opponent gets to floop the Murktide Regent back into play. And I just, like, don't have time to, like, Karn and clear out the graveyard with Tormod's Crypt. I really needed my opponent not to have Snuff Out or not to have that land that they had. Yeah. I hate this card so much. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Got a line, and I'm not happy about it. I don't know, maybe considering the Shadow Spear, I was just supposed to play Kappa Cannoneer last turn. So I just play this for 0. This lets me get Kappa Cannoneer in play, and I go to 1. Yeah, I think considering my Shadow Spear, I was supposed to just do this. I was just a little hesitant. This just wins the game most of the time as long as I draw a mana source, I guess. I guess I can't tap Ancient Tomb to equip this. This being on 0 is super awkward as well. Alright, opponent is going for the attack. And I go to 1. There is an LED that I cannot actually put into play, and these Karns are uncastable. I can attack my opponent down to 1. And I am unfortunately dead here. GG's. I think I was supposed to play out the Kappa Cannoneer rather than go for the bounce. That's on me. I just messed that up. Okay, Karn feels absolutely unplayable here. It's just, like, so glacially slow versus, like, Murktide Regent and Death Shadow. I'm not super a fan of Pithing Needle here. I like something like Aether Spellbomb better. I like Unlicensed Hearse as something that is relatively large and can also help keep Murktides in check. EE is not crazy. Like, EE on 1 wipes the Death Shadows and can take out some potential sideboard cards. I don't really love Force. I don't really love Dismember. Like, most of the time, the Murktide is going to live through Dismember. Death Shadow, it's like sketch on. But instant speed tricks like Street Wraith and fetching, I think, make this a lot worse. I think I'll board in the Ensnaring Bridge. And the last slot here is a little sketch. It could just be an LED to kind of try to do the thing and just have another 0-cost artifact, or it could just be a Tormod's Crypt for similar logic. This is a 3-mana removal spell. I don't like that. Let's play 1 Tormod's Crypt. How do I feel about Force of Will? Be happy Force of Willing a Murktide. Guess I'll keep that. No. First of all. This is fine. I don't think it's exciting, but it's fine. I'll keep this and pitch the Shadow Spear. That just doesn't contribute to the plan that I'm trying to do here. I'm looking to play Hearse on turn 1, use that to keep Murktide from ever being a thing, and then use Force of Will to protect Hullbreacher to shut off cantrips or potentially stop a Death Shadow from doing its thing. Alright. That's food for me. See if my opponent, like, ponders or something as well. How much do I care about Hullbreacher? I don't think this much. I don't think 2 cards. But it's close. Like, it's just so bad if I Force of Will and then they, like, daze me and, like, I am down to literally a seat as my only card left in hand. That timeline just spooks me too much. Alright. Let the graveyard eating begin. Alright, good stuff. Let's top deck something cool. Lotus Petal does not qualify, unfortunately. I'll just pass the turn here. If I can get to the point where I can just hardcast these forces, that would be cool. I don't really expect that to happen before I have to use them, though. Ponder's fine. Ponder is unlicensed hearse food. I can't crew this yet, but, like, this is a long-term plan, not a short-term plan. Ooh, that's really good. Not sure if you're supposed to hit the Ancient Tomb or the seat there. That's a conversation. Ancient Tomb makes Urza Saga better in particular. But, like, this lets... Fuck me. I cast this. Guess I cast this in case my opponent has a Spell Pierce type card. Now the Hearse can eat things from my graveyard as well. For the times where it is actually meaningful for me to do that. Brainstorm is totally fine. Scalding Tarn is a shuffle here. And I will be eating as soon as I can eat 2 cards out of my opponent's graveyard every single time. Alright, that's down to 12 for my opponent. Thoughtseize is fine. Alright. Go Force of Will. Bold move. Bold move. I respect it. I am fine just playing that out, I guess. It gives me options for... that's a Death Shadow. I'll just force that. Like, I am fine making my opponent have more threats. Like, they know I have this, so they're either just trading this for the force. Well, I guess I don't have to do that until the end step here. Yeah, or they just have another Death Shadow type card for the next turn. And Echo does not do anything here. I can't get it into my graveyard without an LED. But this Unlicensed Hearse is getting into kill my opponent in one-shot territory, which is pretty decent. Yeah, that was expected. Now, the other 5 cards in my opponent's hand are probably what I actually have to worry about. Let's eat a couple cards out of my graveyard. Keep this thing growing. Kinda brick in here. Like, when I let the Hullbreacher go in the early game, I was kind of expecting that I would find something to crew this at some point in the game. But that has not happened. End step here, I'm totally fine eating these. These are not artifacts that I can bring back via an Emery. My god. Why have you forsaken me? I'm at 5 of my 6 mana to just attempt to hardcast this. I don't want to hardcast this card. Like, every day's Force of Will, Force of Negation, Spell Pierce type of effect just wrecks me if I do that. It costs me so much. Alright, they're cycling a Street Wraith. That is now 2 cards in graveyard. I will just eat both of those. And, see how bad this turn looks. I'm in I can pretty much die range. Like, my opponent could randomly, like, play a Dress down, turn this into a 13/13, and just get me. They don't even have to do that, though. I just die to this next turn. Bottomed out. Now, my opponent is dead to a creature resolving on my end, so, like, that's a thing. I just expect my opponent has some counter spell to make this bad. But I am literally in a position where I have to try. I'm just dead if I don't try. As a daze, I'll pay. More other days. More other days. I'll pay. Just gonna like set up a fluster situation. What's happening here? We've had second days, yes, but what about third days? All right. Can we resolve? We can resolve. Now, I did not draw a creature that can crew this. Still, I have more mana than it looks because of Mox Opal, and I can play Urza Saga. Okay. Game on. Blue. Cast. Keep this Mox Opal. And I am going to play this around as many dazes as possible. 3 mana. Cast an Ensnaring Bridge. Hope my opponent does not have triple daze or Force of Negation. Okay, hot damn. That's in play. That buys me a turn. And then we can try to find some other way to win later. Before my opponent finds like a Brazen Borrower effect that allows it to beat this. Because my Unlicensed Hearse is not going to be great at attacking through Ensnaring Bridge. Fancy that. You may absolutely Thoughtseize me. Alright, opponent goes to 3. Sure. Uh-huh. By the way, I can win through an Ensnaring Bridge if I find something like a Sigh. I technically should have removed things in response there. That was a little sloppy on my end. I don't think it matters because my opponent just returned a bunch of lands, but good habits, right? Alright, I think we've pulled together a very strong chance at winning this game now. Oh, Chalice is great. Do I just do that on 2? Like, is Brazen Borrower... I don't know, maybe I should just... Like, that's their out, right? Just do that on X equals 2. And then I just don't see them winning. Probably. Yeah, that's the card that I see beating me here, so let's play around that. Alright, there's Chalice on X equals 2 to stop petty theft. Okay, it's happened. Opponent doesn't have enough things in graveyard where I really need to worry about Murktide Regent yet. And Murktide Regent is also just covered by unlicensed hearse. Yeah, that's fine. At some point, I can also Otawara my own Ensnaring Bridge out of the way. Like, that's also a thing that can happen. There's some other cuter lines involving an Echo as well. Wasteland's fine. That's okay. Let's make my construct here. And then I'll go ahead and use this opportunity to eat some things out of my opponent's graveyard. Okay. Kappa Cannoneer is a fine addition to the team here. All right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 seems reasonable. Kappa Cannoneer grows. And we'll pass the turn with the ability to brew something that is much larger than the Death Shadow. Oh? I say, like, what instant speed 1 black mana thing do you want to do? Like, you're not going to dismember. That Wasteland's fine. Like, it's a little annoying that I haven't gotten to tutor. It's not truly a problem. Yeah, and now we stare at each other. I can also just win by decking. Like, that is very legitimately a thing that I can do. I guess I can also just get up to 6 cards in hand. Is that my plan right now? Just get up to 6 cards in hand, kill my opponent. Is that reasonable, or is that risky? Seems reasonable. As long as I keep Murktide Regent from getting into play, because, like, a 3/3 Murktide Regent would legitimately be annoying. So I just have to always, always, always leave this up. Awkward. I want to put this on X's 1, but I can't. Yeah, so we will continue trying to get to 6 cards in hand to just kill with a Kappa Cannoneer. I guess I want 7 cards in hand because I want to play an artifact to make it unblockable. I don't know. My opponent's not cracking these fetches, which makes me worried. Like, they could very much realize that a small Murktide Regent is a way back into the game for them. This card is worth casting. Yeah, maybe this plan's not great. Let's just abandon that plan, and I'll cast an upkeep Hullbreacher and see what my opponent has to say about that. Okay, cool. It has happened. This is the prison. I don't think I need to eat any further with unlicensed hearse from my own graveyard here. Ooh. My opponent just gonna kill themselves? Take a warrior's death? A fatal push, sure. Oh, Urza Saga's super cool. I will immediately go after these cards in graveyard. And then we will once again try to live the Urza Saga dream. This fetch land is now off. Low games of Magic. That's worth casting, right? That's worth casting. Let's do that. That grows my Kappa. Go ahead and equip that to a construct. And now I'm outside of range of just immediately dying to a lot of things. Don't need to play this. Not good to. I have mana to activate Urza Saga without costing me life. I think I'm good. I don't need to, like, play around dress down type cards because I have a Chalice on too. Which is very convenient for me. Sure. My opponent is going to have to hard discard this turn. So let's make a construct. That thing. Eat a card from my opponent's graveyard. And Bob's your uncle. Alright, there's a snuff out that my opponent could never play. make another construct in a continuing line of ridiculously powerful things. I don't have a Pithing Needle. Oh shit, this list doesn't have Psy. Okay, that's fine, I guess. Can attack with Emery a bunch of times, or Otawara my bridge out of play. Let's just take a Bauble for a redraw here. Put a Spell Bomb into play. I need to just always yield to that. Then go ahead and nuke that. Go ahead and just bobble my opponent to draw another card. Okay, you've got a Force of Negation. That's fine. Alright, there's an Echo, which I don't really want to cast, I don't think. I don't know. If I do cast it... No, actually, I don't have any things that can attack at that mana value. I guess I have to, like, start worrying about timing out, potentially. But, like, at some point, I have to draw one of my relevant cards. I'm fine just playing this to get this out of my hand, honestly. Opponent has given up on Gurmag Angler. I don't actually have to eat yet. Yeah, those are not live cards. And I'll just continue doing this thing. There's a new Urza Saga. That's fine. And we're chilling. This is not an exciting game of Magic, but it is a game of Magic. Okay, there's an Otawara. I just Otawara my bridge and win here. Handily. Alright, return my bridge to my hand. Easy W. I don't even think I need to bounce the Death Shadow with Aether Spellbomb. I'll just hold that back for in case something goes wrong. Negative 68. Okay, I do have to win another game here, and I'm down a lot on clock now. I don't really know that I'm going to change anything. Like, Dismember's kind of cute. If I had more time on the clock, seeing how soft my opponent is to Ensnaring Bridge, I maybe Karn Ensnaring Bridge, like, despite how slow that card is. Yeah, apologies for thinking I had Psy. I pulled up 2 versions of this deck, and I was about to borrow the cards for the Psy version, and then, like, I just found a version that had more lands in it, and I switched to that one. I don't think I'm going to play Dismember. Like, I did a lot of damage to myself that game. YOLO? I think YOLO. This is a hand that can become very strong. It's a little awkward to a Thoughtseize, but not that awkward. Alright, yeah, that was the obvious take there. Mox Opal's pretty good. I don't get to play out Hullbreacher in this turn cycle, and I think I'm just going to F6 and let my opponent know that I don't have Force of Will. Like, I've got time to make up. And if we end up in an Ensnaring Bridge situation again, it's quite bad for me. Go ahead and remove the upkeep stop on my opponent's turn as well. I'm looking for basically any mana source or 2 artifacts. Either one of those things I think makes my situation pretty good. Oh, baby. I like this. I like this playing Hullbreacher this turn. So I'm going to go ahead and pass the turn. I'm going to let my opponent fetch, and then probably Hullbreacher in their upkeep. Ooh. Oh, fuck. I've removed the upkeep stop. Whatever. Oh, do I get to leave live the dream? Live the dream! Let it happen. Just let it happen. No. I didn't have artifacts for Mox Opal, unfortunately. Assuming I don't get Wastelanded, though, like, my hand is still totally reasonable. I have made up about 2 minutes of time already this game. Okay. Do we have follow-up? Yes. What is this going to be? Opponent's still at 15. Oh, it's exactly Murktide Regent. Damn. Alright. GG. Like, I lose to that. Or do I? Or do I? So at this point, I'm going to play an Urza Saga, and I'm actually going to play out a Mox Opal so that if my opponent were to use a discard spell on me, they have to take an Echo. And then I'll go ahead and just Otawara Murktide Regent out of play. I think I just do that now because of Stifle. Not a card that I'm expecting my opponent to play, but it's sometimes in Death Shadow deck lists. And then I just kind of hope that I that my Urza Saga can take over this game before my opponent has like a giant Death Shadow or something like that. If I can get a Shadow Spear going, like, it's very good for me. Ooh, no fetch land for that Brainstorm. If I make a Construct token, I have 2. I can't really do this turn. I think the Construct's more important right now. Like, I love the idea of this Chalice of the Void. Might be about to eat a dress down and lose a lot of life because of it. But that kind of is what it is. I don't mind that. Alright. This can also be an LED to attempt an Echo. I think it will be. Here's an attempt with a Chalice on 1. Stubborn Denial occurs. I'm going to go ahead and attack here. Fatal Push also occurs. I should have played this first if I intend on just echoing. Alright. There's my Echo. Makes the Murktide Regent less of a problem by shuffling my opponent's graveyard. That has not occurred. Yeah, I don't like how I played that turn. I fucked up. I'm trying to save time, but by saving time, I cost myself a lot. I don't know. Like, I have multiple Echoes in graveyard now. Like, I probably benefit from an Echo more than my opponent does. Emery followed by Echo. My opponent's graveyard's empty, so that's pretty safe. Yes. Alright, so I'll mill some cards. I'll cast an Echo. I'll get punished by a Daze if my opponent has one. Force plus blue card backing up Murktide Regent. That's fine. That's fine. Alright, I have some lines next turn. But it's definitely scary. I can LED with Emery from graveyard. This is probably not worth my mana. Alright, let's grab LED. Cast LED. I have 3 artifacts right now, so let's float blue. Junk this. Cast Echo, I think without tapping Ancient Tomb. See where this goes. Yeah, I knew about that. This hand that I have drawn is exceptionally bad. Need to deal 12 damage this turn. That's not happening with this hand, which means that I have to Echo again. Which is not great. Because it requires all of this. And I can't force a will to protect it. I think I'm dead for not playing the Otawara out prior to Fierce Guardianship. Yeah. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and concede here. GG's. I messed that one up. That loss is totally on me. I just kind of like changed my mind about how I was going to address the Murktide Regent. I was planning on holding the Otawara, and yeah, I flip-flopped on that hand a couple of different times. Like, if I wasn't in the red for clock, I think I would have won that one by just slowing down and thinking about it more. Okay, round 3, I'll be keeping my opening hand here. We've got a pretty good Emery hand that can pitch Echo to Force of Will. Alright, we are playing against an Urza Saga deck, which doesn't mean a lot in Legacy right now. It's probably lands. I don't think it's worth countering the Mox Diamond, but it's close. Grim Monolith. Am I willing to counter Grim Monolith? I want to have another land? I think since that Urza Saga represents a Voltaic key or Manifold key, I'm just going to counter that and not fuck around with that card. City of Traders is not a fantastic draw at this exact time, but I don't mind it in the more long term. Not good hits off the Emery. I'll bobble on my opponent's turn, I think, with just the intention of using Emery Bobble as a card advantage engine. Alright, do you have the other land? Oh, they didn't have the other land. I had the read on, like, the, like, Voltaic key, based situation. Oh, opponent has Crucible. Gross. Mox Opal, also gross, but, like, in a different way. How badly do I want a Hullbreacher in play immediately? Not super badly. I don't know, like, what else am I doing with this hand, though? Let's Bobble. Grab Bobble. Play City. I think crack Bobble now in case I draw Force of Will. Like, that's something that I might want to do. We've looked at a Crucible of Worlds. Take my card here. Mox Opal, hello. Welcome to Legacy, the format. On it not floating mana? Okay, that is a Mox Opal that they can't actually currently do anything with. I choose you, Hullbreacher. At some point, it may just behoove me to attack for 4 rather than draw an extra card with Emery each turn. I don't think we're there yet. Okay, opponent is done with me. Yeah, that Force of Will on Grim Monolith was really good. So we're potentially playing against a colorless deck or a very light blue splash deck, with the blue splash being for Echo of Eons. This could be like the Mystic Forge deck that has the tappy on tappy combo, Basalt Monolith. And you use that with Mesmeric Orb to mill yourself into echoes that you can cast. My Karns are going to be really good here, whereas they have like maybe not been the best in other rounds. I am probably going to sideboard very minimally. EE can technically do some stuff, although it's kind of wild because it blows up a lot of my stuff too. Ormod's Crypt has text. Unlicensed Hearse has text. Opponent probably is the better Echo deck than I am, in that like my opponent probably has more cheap mana than I do. But it's probably pretty similar. How do I feel about my Chalices? Can I Chalice on 0? Do I even want Chalice in my deck? Probably want Chalice in my deck, assuming it is the Emery Echo deck. It's just like awkward to have 15 0 drops and then also want to play Chalice. Things to think about. I don't know that I'm going to sideboard. Game 1 deck seems pretty good against what my opponent is doing. Yeah, deck's perfect. I might sideboard after I get a little bit more information. I can play a Hullbreacher on turn 1. I'm good with this hand. I'll have a Kappa Cannoneer somewhere in the not-too-distant future after that. I don't know, maybe I have to board in a little bit of Graveyard Hate because of, like, Crucible Wasteland, but IDK. This is a lot of mana. Ancient Tomb, Lotus Petal, pass with Hullbreacher available. LED ends up being a super slick draw. Ooh. Maybe a little more prison-y than I expected here. I'm going to flash in this Hullbreacher. We'll see if my opponent wants to Rishadan Port or make an Urza Saga token. Would like to make a token. But I like to attack into that token. Not really. There's a lot of worlds where I just cast an Echo next turn and just win. I'll play this out. I'm one short of Kappa Cannoneer here. Let's just pass the turn. And then my opponent probably goes Saga token, Saga token. And I don't know, maybe a Shadow Spear, maybe a Manifold Key. Okay, there is another token. Okay, it is a Shadow Spear. And a city. Everything is fine and dandy so far. I can take a lot of damage here. Yes, this is expected. But then I'm hoping to, like, Echo, get, like, a discard 4 plus 7 mana on my end, and end up being totally fine. I don't think I play out that Chalice here. Alright. Ow. There are worlds where attempting this kills me, by the way. But this is a lot. Holy options, Batman. 7 total mana to Karn, and then get Ensnaring Bridge. That's probably very good. Do I have an LED in my sideboard currently? I could get real fucking cute. I don't think I'm going to get real cute. I think I do just go ahead and Karn minus. Yes. Oh, EE is also really good here. EE on 0. Kill both of my opponent's tokens. Play Kappa Cannoneer as a follow-up. That might just be better. Kills my opponent faster. Alright. There's EE on 0. I do have to go ahead and do this here now. Let's use 2 of my mana to go ahead and crack this, killing those 2 construct tokens. Then it'll be 1. Yeah. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, we were very, very well off there. GG's. Hey folks, I hope you're enjoying the show. If you are, and you're in the position to financially support me, please consider doing a donation deck list or doing something that pledges some money my way every month, be that a Patreon subscription or a YouTube membership. If you support me on Patreon or become a YouTube member, you do gain access to my Discord, which is a pretty chill place. Alright, plug over. Let's get back to the content. Alright, round 4. My hand doesn't quite work. This one will be a mulligan here. All right. I'm gonna keep this and go ahead and pitch the City of Traders. I think there's an argument to pitch something different there. I feel pretty good about this. I want to keep both Emerys in case the first Emery gets a Lightning Bolt or Swords to Plowshares or whatever. Yet, we're playing against Enchantress. I'm so excited if we're playing against Enchantress. I haven't seen this deck in months. All right. Beat. Opal. Emery. This is a 1-mana Emery, by the way. A Force of Will me. You gonna make me sad? Okay. Emery has resolved. Finding multiple baubles. I'm gonna go ahead and put a Lotus Petal into play in case shit gets weird in some capacity. And then call it a turn. Yeah. Alright, it's just mana fixing. It's not Enchantress. Everyone settle down. I'm everyone. Also, like, this is probably gonna be yet another grindy round. Definitely thought this league was gonna be, like, on the Mox. Wild play, but alright. Yeah. Let's Emery. Find a bauble. Asked this. And I am... I think I'm just interested in sorcery speed, Hullbreacher. I guess I can look at a random card in my opponent's hand first. An Uro. I don't know, maybe my opponent just, like... I don't want my opponent to brainstorm in response to a Hullbreacher. But there's so many worlds where my opponent, like, tries to do that Uro. Ooh, I like that. Alright. Let us breach some holes, and I will absolutely Force of Will to protect it. Force Pitch to Fairy. There's Force Pitch Emery. Let's fight. Oh, yeah. Nice. I get my treasure token. And now I can do Emery shenanigans and my opponent missed their land drop. Hell yeah. Emery for Bobble. Cast Bobble. Go to combat. Bash in for 3. Opponent goes to 15. Bobble my opponent. Still got that Uro. Surprise. I'll call it a turn. Another Otawara. Yep, that's fine. Would you like to give me a treasure? Ooh, don't really like that. Actually, I don't care about that. Like, that's a hiccup. I can't immediately play it again because of Teferi's static ability, but I can just attack that Teferi for 1. Like, that takes away a little bit of short-term value for me. But, like, that's not the end of the world. Goodbye Teferi. I think I just chill with an Ancient Tomb in play, and I'm fine sorcery speeding this. Again, I don't want to give my opponent an opportunity to brainstorm now, especially that they know that this card exists. Aha. Nice. Now, this arrow can just come back in the not-too-distant future, but I am accruing treasures, which makes it noticeably easier to deal with that card. Let's Emery. Get a Bobble. Bobble my opponent. They have a Ponder. Play an Ancient Tomb. Bash in with a Hullbreacher. Take my card. Alright, there's a lot of lands, folks. Drawing a lot of extra cards. I need some gas. Oh, lean. Yes. That occurs. That does basically nothing, right? You may draw 2 additional cards. This is... Yep, the first one they draw. Yeah, that's fine. I don't need to bounce that. Oops, all baubles. I guess it becomes more awkward if my opponent, like, Swords to Plowshares a Hullbreacher. There's that Ponder I know about. Do this again. And this time around, a Terminus. Not castable. Drop an Ancient Tomb into play. And crash in for 3. Opponent goes to 12. I'll draw some cards for Bobble. Thank you, deck. Real cool. Let's always yield to that. Alright, and we're chilling. Another Hullbreacher. Don't mind that. I have an Endurance covered if my opponent were to do that. I'll just go ahead and crash in with a Hullbreacher here. My opponent to 9. Emery, target Bobble. Do a Bobble. Bobble my opponent. Got a Brainstorm that I played around earlier. Cast a Mox Opal for lulz, and hold up another Hullbreacher if something goes wrong. Okay, Shadow Spear is totally fine. Your Heart out, Sylvan Library. End of turn, Hullbreacher. A Karn. That's pretty much an instant game over for my opponent. That just represents Mycosynth Lattice. 3, 6, 7, 8 damage this turn, potentially. While still having great Karn options and still having Otawara available. I'm good with this. There's a Shadow Spear equip on a Hullbreacher. And I think I am fine attacking with the Emery this turn. It's not a change in clock, but it's a change in whether or not my opponent has the capability to fetch, which feels very real to me. 1, 2. I'm fine taking the life here to just kind of hedge. Alright, there's a Force of Negation. My opponent did not hardcast, notably. So there's a cute line that they might be going for. But don't worry, I'm prepared for it. Yep. That's not an oops. You're putting a Terminus back on top of your deck. Like, I know what's up. Oh my gosh, it's a miracle that no one saw coming. What a great trick. Otawara. Target Hullbreacher. 1. I'll pay the life. 2, 3. Terminus resolves. Let's turn off auto yields here. So when library trigger still on the stack. Yeah, absolutely fuck you and your oops. You are not pulling that one over on me, Ryan. Okay, so my opponent is playing some sort of Uro mush pile. The unlicensed hearses are probably going to be pretty good at fighting Uro. I can board in Aether Spellbomb as something that can bounce an Uro if I would like, and it's okay versus Endurances that my opponent might play to fuck with me in combat. Against Terminus, Warping Whale is a thing, but I think a lot of the time I am not going to care about Terminus. Like, in that instance there on that board, like, my opponent Terminus and, like, lost anyway. And, like, if I lose 2 Urza Saga tokens, I lose 2 Urza Saga tokens. I'm not really sure that I want a Force of Will. Like, protecting some of my stuff is kind of cool, but I don't think I want a 2-for-1 myself, and my blue cards are pretty reasonable in this matchup. The Echoes can be a little more awkward if my opponent is playing Narset. I didn't see Narset, but it would be reasonable to think my opponent might have it. Let's start out with 2 Hearse. I think I want Tormod's Crypt as a Karn target rather than in my deck. I want another LED for better Echo situations. Opponent's got a lot of stuff they have to counter on my end. I think I'm fine with that, and then just fill the deck with either like that or a Warping Whale. Not really sure how I feel about Warping Whale. Countering Terminus is cool, but again, I don't think it's that big of a problem. I am going to keep this hand. This is a very strong Urza Saga hand that at some point will pivot into a pretty broken Hullbreacher hand. The pivot is now. This will be turn 1 Island, turn 2 Hullbreacher, and Echo in a lot of worlds. Not every world, but a lot of worlds. I'm not going to play out LEDs this turn because they telegraph kind of what's going on. But if my opponent randomly plays Counterbalance and has a 0 drop on top, that becomes awkward for me. Alright. Are we YOLOing? I can wait a turn and then also have an Urza Saga in play. I don't know that I really want to YOLO. I still kind of want to play Hullbreacher, but just playing out Emery and playing a little slower is good too. I think I'm on board with that. 2 mana Emery. I am fine with 2 mana Emery here, as to not play out Lion's Eye Diamonds. Ice Fang Coatl is fine. Alright, my creature has resolved. I don't really expect it to stick around. And if I had milled an Echo there, I could have been able to go for double Echo in this turn cycle. All fine. Sure. Fine with me. Play out Ancient Tomb. I'm going to play out Mox Opal. This is this. Once I have another artifact in play, I have 2 mana. I'd like 1 more mana. I also don't hate just getting that Unlicensed Hearse from the graveyard. I can get Unlicensed Hearse from the graveyard and then still make an Urza Saga token. I just ignore Hullbreacher. Hearse is pretty legit. I'm going to play out an LED here first, though. Then I'll Hearse. Fine doing it for life here. Then I'll pass the turn with both Urza Saga and Hullbreacher available. Okay, cool, cool, cool. What do we got? All right, no cantrips here or anything. I will just ride the Urza Saga wave for a little while. That's totally fine with me. I'm fine with activating that. And if my opponent does not fetch in response, I'm pithing needling the ever-loving shit out of Flooded Strand. Yep. Goodbye, white mana. And I imagine that might effectively be the end of the game. I'll grab Bobble here over Petal, I think. There's Bobble. Opponent also doesn't have Death Touch on this now. I have 1. I only have 2 mana. 1, 2. I have 3 if I want a Hullbreacher. I think I just want to Shadow Spear and trample over, honestly. I don't necessarily want to commit another creature to the board here. Because I don't expect to get, like, Terminist or equivalent from the current board. But shit happens. Go ahead and do an Urza blah, blah, blah. Let's do a Bobble. You've got a Forest. I don't need an Opal for any reason. I think I'm just good. Alright, I'll take my card. Chalice is whatever. I think this game's over. Okay, yeah, there's the Forest that I know about. Seeds of Innocence was unexpected. Sure. I have an Emery in play. Like, that's not that scary for me. Which is terrifying to say, honestly. I don't like that my opponent has access to white mana now, but they didn't just remove Emery, so they don't have Swords to Plowshares. They could have a like, Prismatic Ending or something. Alright, let's get this Unlicensed Hearse back. I don't want to lose to, like, some Snapcaster Mage type bullshit. Sorcery, yeah. So I will play out an LED here. Play out a Mox Opal. That gives me enough mana. Now Chalice of the Void on 1. I think is fine. And then next turn, I might be comfortable echoing. I'm not there yet. I've played this whole Hullbreacher Echo situation so much more conservatively than I expected to. I wonder if I'm going to end up attacking my own graveyard with Hearse. I don't think so. Icefang Coatl is not that big of a deal. And, let's get rid of that card. No chances. Fine doing this. Fine just continuing to Bobble forever. I don't think I want to risk Hullbreacher Echo with my opponent having so much mana up. I think I'll just pass the turn here. And if my opponent throws something on the stack, I will Hullbreacher in response. Yeah, I'll Hullbreacher in response to that. Notably, I did forget to Bobble on my turn. Which is relevant if the top card of my library is exactly Force of Will. Yes, that's fine. Yes, that's also fine. All right. I'll Bobble my opponent now. There's a Force of Will. And I'll Hearse, like, a land and a Hullbreacher out of my own graveyard here. Take a new card. An Urza Saga. The fairy's not that scary. I believe it is time to attempt an Echo. Because I can attempt double Echo here. Which feels really strong. Let's play out a Saga. Have an Opal already. So let's go ahead and grab a Bobble. We're going to kind of hold that in play. Play an LED. Going to go ahead and... I'm fine tapping like this. Okay. So this is the trap that I have set. Now I get to attempt Echo of Eons twice. So I will tap both of these for blue. Tap a colorless here. We'll cast an Echo and see how this goes. Okay, I did the thing. That's very good for me. And these aren't legendary or anything. Okay. Not the best hand in the world, but my opponent is... maybe I hold that because of another Seeds of Innocence, actually. That's very unlikely, but it is a thing that could occur. I don't really need to do anything else this turn. Not the best draw 7 in the world, but these baubles, in theory, should be very good. In theory. Okay, yeah, we're done. We're done. GG's. Round 5. How fast is this Kappa Cannoneer? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This is a turn 3 Kappa Cannoneer as of right now. We haven't really gotten a air quotes real Kappa Cannoneer into play, because like I think the one time we did, we were also hiding behind an ensnaring bridge. No. At this point, we're starting to think about Urza Echo hands. Oh no. This is a pretty good 5-card hand, I guess. It's weird and uncomfortable. All right. The Karn 100% goes back. And then I think the second Urza Saga goes back. If my first Urza Saga gets wastelanded, I really want the second Urza Saga, though. But I don't know that I can keep a hand without blue mana in case I draw Emery. And I don't think City of Traders can go back, because that allows me to Urza into City. So I think it is this, and just, like, I just absolutely eat it if my opponent wastelands Urza Saga. Fuck. Fuck. I want the second Urza Saga. I still think I have to play towards drawing Emery after mulliganing that hard, because, like, Emery Bauble is a fantastic engine that I could have online on turn 1. And not every deck is a Wasteland deck, unfortunately. This is very likely Blue-Red Delver. That is what it is. I think I will play a Bauble, but not crack it, and see where that goes. Please don't brainstorm into Wasteland. While that will brainstorm lock you, it will murder me. Okay, cool. The worst timeline has been... Ooh. I'll cast an LED to increase my artifact count here. And then this will be Ancient Tomb. And this will be really powerful if I don't get wastelanded, and still powerful even if I do. Now, this could also just be show and tell. Like, let the record show. Like, that is still very much a thing that can happen. I haven't seen a Dragon Rage Channeler, a Delver, a Ledger Shredder, anything of that nature. And if my opponent just keeps playing cantrips, I'm going to start thinking more and more about show and tell. Oh, JK, it's that fucker again. Hello, Murktide Regent. Alright, turn 3, 6/6 for 2 mana. NBD. Let's make my construct. The good news is Shadow Spear should hopefully beat this card. I say hopefully, because it happens. Alright, there's a 4/4. These are now 5/5s with a Shadow Spear in play. I can play Seat into Kappa, and if my opponent doesn't have a Daze, that's super cool. I can also just play City and attack with Shadow Spear this turn, and then use my bonus mana next turn for Kappa. I think I like the equip. I don't really think my opponent can really accept this trade. This is 6 life and my opponent's only threat. Yeah. Now, the Seat next turn is secretly very strong here. I don't really know how my opponent beats me in game 1 from here. Like, in post-sideboard games, they have access to Meltdown, and they just, like, dig and find that, and I die. But in game 1, I'm not expecting any nonsense that beats me. It'd be a little weird for my... Oh, Young Pyromancer. What year is it? I would not have shown that card. Like, if I was planning on conceding, I would have shown literally anything else. Like, now I know that chump blockers are more of a thing. Alright, let's go to the post-sideboard games here. Like, with Young Pyromancer, like, Warping Whale all of a sudden becomes way more attractive, because it not only will counter Meltdown, it will also kill Young Pyromancers. Yeah, I am in for that. I'm not into Karn. That just seems unplayable here. It's so slow. I think Karn has to go. I'm not really into Force of Will either. I don't want to force pitching these cards most of the time. I want to force pitching Echo. I am into Unlicensed Hearse. I think I'm into Ensnaring Bridge, despite the fact that I can't tutor for it. I'm into Aether Spellbomb. Yeah, let's see if I can get Force of Wills out of the deck. I think I can. Yeah, this requires only one more card. I can totally play, like, one of these. I don't really know that I'm on board with these Dismembers. Like, if my opponent has Ledger Shredders, I think I like them. I don't know that I want to Dismember Young Pyromancer. I want a Warping Whale. I don't know that I want to Dismember it. 4 life is a lot. I don't know. I'd Dismember Dragon Rage Channeler, though, and be pretty happy. Excuse me with that. Miser's Dismember. I think a Miser's Dismember is okay. I don't know that I want more of them. Like, I could shift away from the LED Echo package a little bit. I think it's fine. I think it's a little awkward if I bring in the Ensnaring Bridge, and, speaking of a little awkward, this has a lot of mana, which I like. It has a removal spell, which I like. It has a very good turn 2 play, but it's on the draw, where Daze is very much a concern. I don't think this hand is powerful enough. Like, this is a very mana-safe hand, but it doesn't really do anything. Excluding a Mox Opal, how is this hand? Turn 1, Pithing Needle, Wasteland around a Daze. And then kind of have nothing? I don't know if that's good. My top decks are great. I don't think I'm on board with it. I don't think this is better than, like, a respectable Emery hand. I don't know that this is a respectable Emery hand, but this is going to be a keep. Emery goes back. Second Hearse, question mark? I think second Hearse over third land. This is going to be a slow game. This is going to be a, like, proper prison game. We'll see where it goes. I can lead on Island, which is pretty respectable. Ancient Tomb would be a pretty good draw. So that I can play these cards around Daze. No end of turn Brainstorm or anything like that from my opponent. I don't mind drawing the extra land. It's a little awkward that it's a seat, because Meltdown is going to be one of my opponent's best cards against me in this matchup, and, like, that's something that gets destroyed by it. Alright, there's the Misty. I can get rid of that zone. Alright. No Delver from my opponent. Oh my gosh, yes. Hearse or Chalice. Always this. My opponent plays one card. That's 3, 4, 5 towards Murktide. 5 of 7. If my opponent plays one card and a fetch land, 4 cards in graveyard, 7. Probably has to be Hearse. I want to Chalice first, but I think I have to Hearse first, or I just, like, fuck me. Yep. Like, this sort of thing is why I wanted to play Chalice first, but I'm just, like, so dead to my opponent playing a Murktide Regent next turn that I think I just have to go for it. Like, that's how warping that card is. Like, I cannot wait a turn to play around it, or it's in play and I'm dead. And I hate that about the format so much. Alright, there's a Misty. Yeah, I mean, my decision was correct. I will probably take one hit from a Murktide Regent in order to get Chalice of the Void into play. And then Otawara it out. I think this just shuts off enough lines for my opponent where I'm willing to take the 6. The 6 is a little scary with an Ancient Tomb in play, but it will be much harder for my opponent to get the Murktide in the second time if I take this line. That's really annoying for me. Yeah, I might lose the game to that Wasteland. Oh, that's very good. That's Mox Opal with Metalcraft. There's Urza Saga. I now have 1, 2, 3, 4 mana. I can go ahead and Otawara the Murktide Regent out of play. I'm fine doing that in my opponent's upkeep, I think. Before they have another chance at randomly drawing a Stifle type card. And then I will just try to ride this Urza Saga to victory. Again, Meltdown is incredibly good against me right now. I'm not interested in this Chalice at the time being, right? No. There's worlds where I could put it on 2 for expressive iteration. I think I care about double construct token. Just trying to end the game while my opponent is potentially stuck behind Chalice. We'll see. There's lots of lines. There's lots of lines. Ooh, do we have a removal spell? Petty Theft on Chalice. That turns this into a lightning boltable target. Yep. Very nice. An Echo. That is interesting. Let's go ahead and get a Lotus Petal here, I think. I think I'm just interested in immediately flooping another one of these into play. And then we can get cute in the future. Like, Shadow Spear is cool and all. But I think with Kappa Cannoneer coming in the not-too-distant future... I wonder if my opponent... What are you doing? You blood mooning me? Team Vance. Oh, just... the hardest cast Murktide Regent. Understood. Alright. Okay, so this is Murktide Regent into Brazen Borrower. Nice. Alright. There's an Urza Saga. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Kappa Cannoneer. So, I can play this Chalice of the Void for 0 this turn, which shuts off some of my future draws. But in return, I can also attack with a 6/6 construct this turn. I think that's worth it, because my opponent has a lot of pressure. My opponent attacks for 7 and then 7, so I think I need to attack this turn. And Brazen Borrower can only block creatures with flying, which this does not have. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yes, I am good with this decision, as awkward as it looks. Alright, there's my Kappa Cannoneer. Yeah, Brazen Borrower is fine. Knew that was happening. I'll attack for 6. That puts you to 8. And potentially forces Murktide Regent to stay back as a blocker. Okay, that's good enough to get the concession here. And means that we end up with a 4-1 in the league, which I think could have been a 5-0 if I played better, honestly. Overall thoughts on the deck list. Honestly, I don't think it's very good. Which is weird to say after immediately saying, like, I 4-1'd with this and I think it could have been a 5-0 if I played better. But the Kappa Cannoneers didn't show up as often as I wanted them to. I just wanted more of that. The Karns felt pretty slow, and the utility that I got from them was very low. I think I just want to play normal 8 cast rather than this more echo-oriented version. Like, I think having more copies of Kappa Cannoneer and having the Thought Monitors is better than having access to, like, the Karns here. And although the Echoes did really cute things in a couple of the rounds, like, assembling Echo combo is not a deterministic win. Like, it is an A plus B combo that does not win you the game. Now, do you usually win the game after you do that? Yes, but there's times when you don't, where you just draw a bunch of mana sources. Like, at the end of the day, you know, there is a huge portion of this deck that is just like lands and mana, and so sometimes when you echo, you don't win, especially if your opponent already has a large board presence. The Ottawaras in this league, though, were like, mwah, chef's kiss. They were incredibly strong. I'm very, very happy with those cards. I don't know that I want more than 2. Like, they come at a real cost. They are legendary. They are wastelandable. But I felt good about this. Urza Saga did a lot of heavy lifting in this league, as it frequently does. Yeah, pretty happy with this overall. I don't know how I feel about the sideboard. I really like Unlicensed Hearse. I would maybe even consider running one more of those, but I was pretty lukewarm on Dismember this league. I didn't really bring that in a bunch. I get that it's an out to Collector Oof, which is important, and some versions of this deck run like Echoing Truth or something like that to get it out of play as well. So ultimately, I think this deck falls into the good, but there's probably better versions of this that exist out there. It's kind of in similar design space to like the mono black decks, like the mono black Urza Saga kind of prison-y decks. Like, there's a lot of ways that you can build that deck, and I kind of feel the same way about these mono blue artifact prison-y decks. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed the next installment of kind of our showcase of prison deck lists. There's 3 more of these coming in the not too distant future. Please consider subscribing if you want to stick around for those. And if you're a regular, throw me a like before you leave if you didn't at the beginning of the video. It really helps out a lot. Have a great rest of the day, folks. See ya!